Hey everybody, how's everybody doing today? Welcome to my photography chat live stream where we come together as a community and share this passion that we have, we call photography. And as always, I like the audience to drive the conversation. And if you have anything you'd like to talk about, you can leave it in the chat section, or if you have any questions, of course, it's an open Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer them. And also I'd like to give a little update on what I've been up to. It's been a pretty busy week for me this week. Photography wise. I did an event and I'll share a few images from that. Uh, it was a pro bono thing. I was just kind of doing it volunteer as were the performers. We're all volunteering for a senior center. And I think there's some lessons to be learned in there in terms of doing event photography because I'm a little rusty. I haven't had an event job in a while. And so I made a couple of mistakes about halfway through, and then I corrected them, and then things kind of worked out. But there was that, and also I got some more practice in with my new macro lens. Uh, as you know, I got the 60 macro OM Systems, but I was able to get this super macro lens. It's a Midicon 4.5x magnification, and sorry. Let me check my messages because sometimes you guys notify me if there's a problem. For those, a lot of you have my direct number. Okay. No, it's just a Christmas sale. So, yeah, the 4.5x magnification, super macro lens. And I'll talk a little bit about this lens. It's available on B&H for $149 right now. And then I also been using my new mini macro flash. This has been great. It has a few caveats. Okay, it's not perfect. It's an entry level budget flash, but it gets the job done with a few caveats. And also, I've been using these mini tabletop tripods because some of you had questioned, what are you going to use these for? But these come in really handy with macro photography uh, in particular, because a lot of macro stuff is tabletop, right? So hence the tabletop tripod. And I have a couple of those. So if you guys watch my Tuesday shopping streams, I talk about where you can buy these with affiliate links and all of that. But today I'm just going to kind of talk about my experience with them because I've only had maybe this lens for about a week and the flash a week, and the tripods I've had for a few weeks, and those have been great. And also this macro rail, which now I'm starting to really get some use out of it because some of you had asked me about do I use a macro rail, and when you're dealing with 4.5x macro, you pretty much have to use one because the adjustments are very fine, and you can only do that with really a macro rail if you're going to do focus stacking. Trying to do single shot macro at 4.5x is kind of futile because there's very few. The depth of field is so shallow that you're not going to get much out of it. At least what I've done so far, and I'll share some of the images that I did using this setup, and then also I did some birding at Conowingo. That's kind of a mixed bag. That was kind of an interesting experience this time, and then some fireworks and some other stuff. So a lot of stuff. So busy. I'm so tired. I tell you, I've been running on fumes. It seems like I've been going out every day and doing some shooting one way or the other. Okay, so let me check the chat section and we'll get started. So Anthony says, I would like to see DxO. Is this popping up or not? There it is. So I would like to see DxO Photolab 10 introduce panorama stitching capabilities when it comes out for 2026. For me, that would be a big plus and a big reason to move to DxO. Okay. There's some really good free panorama stitch software called GigaPano. And that's what I use when I'm not using Photoshop. I've been using Photoshop lately because I still have it. Um, but there's, for people that, ditched or never got into Adobe, uh, Gigapano, Giga. I'll just type it. If you just Google this, this is a great free stitching software. It used to be $100 product or something, and now they're just giving it away. And it's great. And just carefully read the installation instructions. Because, yeah, I haven't heard anything about panorama stitching or stacking. I think Affinity Photo now is free. I know it's free, and I believe it has stacking and stitching built in as well. So what I think I might recommend to a lot of people, because DxO right now is doing 20% off bundling products. So for those of you that want the very best in noise reduction and sharpening and optical corrections and things, you can get the PureRaw 5 and Nik Collection combined and get 20% off. And if you use my affiliate link down below, along with my coupon code together, you'll get another 5% off on top of that. So 25% off when you bundle any two products. And I would recommend PureRaw 5 and Nik Collection, because Nik Collection, you can actually edit your photos. It has a photo editor in there, the Viveza, I think it's called. The workflow is not as fluid as a lot of dedicated photo editing platforms, but it has everything there, sliders, highlights, shadows, gradients, control points, all kinds of stuff. But again, the workflow is not ideal, but you could get away with just using those two products to edit your photos and denoise them and everything. And then, of course, Nik Collection has all of the other plugins or apps like Silver Effects, which is their signature black and white. And I really like the classic camera and toy camera presets that they have. All kinds of stuff in there. Okay, and Erna, good to see you. And Erna's asking, do you see the OM1 Mark III coming out next year? Or maybe 2027? It'll probably be 2027, because the OM1 Mark II came out in 2024, maybe early 2024 or mid. So it's been a year and a half, tops. 2026 would give it 2 years. So we might hear rumors about a Mark III, but I don't think we'll see anything till 2027. And I don't mind waiting, because they really need to make a much bigger leap in the Mark III versus what they did between the Mark I and the Mark II, because I didn't see any reason to upgrade to the Mark II for my case. And I'm a pretty heavy user for OM systems, and it just didn't influence me, and which is a good thing, actually, because we really don't need to buy a camera every year, right? Or every 2 years even. You could probably use your camera for 4 or 5 years. I'm just I just have gas, and I just buy things that I don't need all the time. Okay, and let me try and get here. What's the largest aperture and Micro Four Thirds lens that you know, preferably a sharp one with good quality? Ooh, that I've seen as low as 0.95, like the Midicon 25mm 0.95 lens, but wide open is not very sharp. It's great for cinematography and for images that have character, that are not perfect, clinically perfect and super sharp. It works great for those things. But that's the fastest aperture I'm aware of. And then the very best are going to be the Olympus Pro and the Panasonic Leicas. Like the 17 1.2 and the 45 1.2 are very highly regarded. The 25 also excellent, but I think the 17 and 45 get higher marks. And then Panasonic has the 42.5, 1.2, and they also have, I think they have a 12 millimeter f2. That's not very fast, right? But yeah, so when you talk about fast or the largest aperture, you have to consider the focal length, right? What is your intent of using the large aperture? Is it to gather low light for low light photography, or is it for the shallow depth of field? And I would say a good balance are the f1.2 lenses from Panasonic and OM Systems. You get excellent image quality. It's going to work in low light just great. And you also get a shallow depth of field when you use the bigger focal lengths like 25 and 45. So that's where I would go with that. I think there's plenty of options available third party that are very fast. 1.4s, 1.2s, 0.95s. There's a slew of those. I can't name them off the top of my head, but they give you pretty good image quality. Not as good as the pro lenses, but again, depending on what your intent is for the lens. If you need clinical sharpness, wide open, usually the third party lens is not good at that. But they're perfectly fine for low light and sharp enough for most things, right? For enthusiasts. And Henning, good to see you. And Jeff, good to see you. And happy holidays, by the way, everyone that celebrates the holidays this time of year. It's really a great time because everybody's so happy and busy too, right? At the same time, but in a good way, right? It's a good busy. And good morning, Thomas. Good to see you. And we got some snow this morning. There's about an inch out there right now. And I did go out this morning. Part of the reason I started a little late, I was out this morning trying to get pictures of snowflakes using my new macro lens. I'll share the images. I already loaded them onto my computer. I just haven't stacked them or processed them at all. And good morning, Roger. Good to see you. And Adam, good to see you. And that reminds me, I think I remember, I watched a video this week. I forget the guy's name, but he added an OM1 Mark II and the 50-200 f2.8 to his gear, right? And talked about how so many people are switching to wildlife. At least, if you look at YouTube, a lot of people are switching to OM Systems for their wildlife photography. So he got excited and wanted to do that. He had been with Sony for 10 years at this point. I don't know if he's ditching Sony, but he's shooting like the Sony A1, and it looked like he had some pretty substantial lenses, like maybe a 600 f4 back there. And it reminded me, he struggled. He went out 3 times. The first 2 times he struggled. He got terrible pictures with it. And then by the 3rd time, after going to probably Adam's Facebook group, he got a lot of good advice about how to get sharper images for his wildlife photos, because he was just shooting ducks on the water and stuff. And then he finally got some good images that he was very happy with. And it reminded me, I used to say this a lot, a few years ago. You cannot shoot micro four thirds in general the same way you would shoot a full frame camera. There's a lot of reasons for that, not the least of which is, they're very high pixel pitch cameras. So you have to be very, very conscious of your shutter speed. And you have to know the fundamentals, right? Or best practices for photography. Keep your shutter speeds up, stop your aperture down a couple stops for the sharpest, the sweet spot of the lens. Watch your ISOs and light. just some basic best practices. Use a tripod when you need to. And he had been shooting Sony for 10 years in aperture priority for a lot of things, and let the camera really handle the shutter speed and everything else for these like ducks on a water type photos. And then when he went to OM Systems, OM Systems, when you shoot an aperture priority in OM Systems, it puts a lot of priority on keeping the ISO down low, right? And I did a whole video probably 6 or 7 years ago about how the auto ISO in Olympus works, and it's pretty much the same now for OM Systems. But yeah, you can't shoot moving subjects, especially wildlife, at 1/250th of a second, which is what happened when he was in aperture priority. You're going to get motion blur. But anyway, he sorted it out, and seems to be very happy with it. So he might do some more videos. Let me see if I can find him real quick. If I'm gonna talk about somebody, I should call him, give you their name. Let me see if I can find it. It's got to be in my history, because I just watched it, along with apparently a lot of dog and cat videos. Scott Hamill. So this video here, my day started off. It's pretty entertaining video too. I really liked his personality and the way he made the video is pretty fun watch too. So I'll give you a link to this, and let's see, I'll just put Scott. So watch that. It's entertaining. I think it's a good video. But yeah, you just cannot shoot Micro Four Thirds the same way, regardless of Panasonic or OM Systems, because again, the sensor size is smaller, so you have to watch your ISOs, you watch your shutter speed because of the pixel pitch, and then be conscious of the your aperture, right? Because once you start getting near f8, technically you start to see a little diffraction. So if you're a pixel peeper, you need to be very conscious of all the different lenses available for Micro Four Thirds and the chromatic aberrations you can get and diffraction, because of the very dense pixel density. Okay, Gordon, good to see you. And audio video good. Oh, thanks. I forgot to ask. Make sure the audio and video is good. And hello, Arios. Good to see you. And let's see. Good morning from Fort Lauderdale. Oh, Enrique. Awesome. Man, we've had really cold couple of weeks here where I live, man. I'm so jealous. And hey, Pargito, good to see you. And video quality and the sound is perfect today. Thank you. Thank you. And hi, Rob. Oh, hey, Paul. How are you? Good to see you. And Aris asks, did you notice, Rob, and more demanding computational power in 9.3? What are the 3 minimum requirements to work well with DxO? Sorry, it jumped. DxO9 or newer incoming AI version, CPU, RAM, video card. Okay, so the CPU is not too critical. Any recent CPU like 12th generation Intel or higher, no problem. You can probably even go a little bit older than that. But you definitely want to get a multi-core CPU, which they all are now. But try to avoid getting any processor in the Intel lineup that has the letter U in it, in the name. So if you see like Intel 13900U, the letter U, then I would skip that processor. Make sure it has a letter K and or the letter H in the name somewhere. So Core i7, whatever number H, Core i7, whatever number K. The letter K is typically in desktop CPUs, and the letter H, I think they're in both, but I'm more familiar with laptops. So CPU is not quite as critical. i5, i7, i9, maybe go with i7, because if you're not using the computer just for photo processing, right? And a lot of other apps are very CPU dependent. So you probably want to get at least a Core i7 just for the sake of the usability of the computer overall, not just photo processing. And then for graphics, NVIDIA RTX 4060 or higher is ideal. RTX, you can go higher, 4070, 4080. If you're gonna do video editing, then I would recommend a 4070, 4080, or get the Ti versions like a 4060 Ti. These are gonna have more memory, more cores, and all of that, which are really important for video processing. For photography, the 4060 is good. I'm not familiar with the Radeon series, but they have equivalents that are going to perform just as well and work well with DxO. And then for RAM, minimum 16. I would go to 32 minimum if you're going to do any video work. But minimum 16, but 32 is ideal. The more the better, especially with all the new AI going on, because it has to keep track of so many things going on, and you want it to work as efficiently as possible. So having more RAM is good. So there you have it: Core i7 with the letter H or letter K, 32 gig of RAM, and an RTX 4060. And in a laptop version, you can usually get those for about $1,200–$1,300. And, in a desktop, about the same or a little more, for similar performance. A good person to reach out to is Marco over at Hot Hardware. He'll give you the very best advice, because he's a OM system photographer and processes, obviously he does editing. But his primary job over there is to review computer hardware. So he'll give you a very, very much more specific and the latest, updates and news about computer hardware. So I would hop over there. They do live streams pretty regular. I haven't been to his channel lately, sorry, but I would check out his channel, Hot Hardware, on YouTube, and you can reach out to him through there. And Kunder says, I'm still rocking the OM1 Mark I. Yeah, it's a great camera. Me too. And Roger says, we need small entry-level cameras to move people out of smartphones. Yep. I don't know if we can get people out of smartphones, but we can definitely draw people that are really interested in photography that are currently using their smartphone, and into an entry-level camera, an OM20, which I've talked about over and over again. They need a $500 or $600 camera. I talked about it last week a little bit more, but I think we need a $500 or $600 camera that just kills it. Just does everything. Make compromises maybe on the things that are not quite as important to people just getting started. We don't need dual card slots. We don't need weather sealing. We don't need an all metal body. We don't need the very best IBIS. But what we need is really good autofocus and, a subject detect at a minimum. And then the core computational features that we have now. If they can do that, I think they'll have a winner on their hands. And good morning, ATR Bear. And Thomas, good to see you. What is Thomas saying here? Several episodes ago, you recommended a certain brand for external storage and warned against a certain brand. What are they, please? I'm in the market. Okay, so let me just preface this by, this has been my personal experience. On a statistical level, there's very little difference, okay, between these two brands. But I've had almost a perfect experience with Western Digital. I've had a less than perfect experience with Seagate. I have several drives that I have from Seagate that have failed. I don't think I have any, maybe one, but I can't think of any Western Digital drives that have failed on me. But that's been my experience. But I've seen a lot of statistical type videos on servers, right? Doing hard drives that these data centers use, and very, very minor differences. And the consensus was, yeah, Western Digital still, I think, came out on top, but don't quote me on that. But the consensus was basically the drive will typically fail within the first couple of months or a year. But if they made it past that point, whatever that nexus is of failure, then they lasted forever. People had no problems. So, and I would say that feels about right, because I know my Seagate drives, they didn't last more than a year before they failed. But I have 2 or 3 Seagate drives here, one that I've been using for the last 5 or 6 years. It's been working perfectly. And I still use it now. It's still hooked up to my computer. So, but I can tell you, I can go into my drawer here and pull out a drive from 2013. That's a Western Digital, and it still works. I can't say the same for my Seagates, but a lot of those did fail pretty early on. Other external storage in the SSD space, you know, the solid state drives, you know, Crucial is very good. So I would consider them on Crucial and Samsung. I think those are 2 very good brands when it comes to external storage for SSDs outside of, you know, Western Digital. Okay, and Adam says, learning with my Fuji how much easier IBIS makes things. I'm not a hand holder and getting I am not hand holding and getting sharp images under 1/125th without it on the XT30. I can handle up 30 seconds. Yeah. So this is one of the things I noticed when this was years ago when I bought an X100. It's an X100F, I think. The one just before the V came out. But anyway, the lack of IBIS was noticeable, right? So just like I said, you can't shoot Micro Four Thirds the same way you shoot full frame. You really can't shoot a camera without IBIS the same way you would shoot a camera with IBIS. You know, you can still get great results, but you have to adapt a little bit differently for cameras that don't have IBIS. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And XMeta, good to see you. And Marsha, good to see you. When you coming up? It's almost the holidays. I thought you were gonna be up here. And let's see. Good morning, Wayne. Good to see you. And let's see. Aguila says the Voigtlander 29mm f.8 is the fastest MFT lens out there. Manual focus, really good image quality with a few quirks. Yeah, I've not heard of that lens. If you want a different look, that's the one to get. So again, I'm probably talking about character, but I'm sure there's like 100 YouTube videos on that lens that you can check out. And XMeta says, do you plan more videos about 360 photos? Recently, I've added the Insta360 X5. Interesting hardware, but damn, those files are huge. Yeah. No, I'm not really a good 360 guy. There's a guy out there named, I think, Ben Claymont. He's probably one of the better 360 video guys out there, but I haven't watched a lot since I bought my 360 camera a couple of years ago. I haven't really watched a lot. Yeah, it's not a workflow I can do a video about, because I just don't use it enough. And Lane says, I'm wondering how good the human detection is on the OM1 Mark II. I have the OM1, but find the face detect doesn't work well after a certain distance. And that's true of a lot of cameras. Now, I haven't actually tested the OM1 Mark I versus, say, my Sony a7R5, because I'm not trying to face detect somebody more than, 3 meters away or 10 feet. If they're more than 10 feet away, depending on your focal length, of course, but generally, with a 50 millimeter lens or 25 on micro four thirds, if they're like 10 feet away, they're already they're a little bit too far away to where autofocus would really, face detect would really make that much of a difference, in my opinion, for the kind of photo you might be taking. And it should be able to lock on pretty easily. But if you go further than that, yeah, the depth of field is pretty wide at that point, and face detect's not quite as critical. I mean, you don't want the lens to focus, like 3 or 4 feet ahead of you, and the person is 20 or 30 feet behind you or behind that point, because then, yeah, they'll be out of focus if the face detect doesn't work. But usually it'll at least pick up the person, even at 20 or 30 feet, and that's more than enough. But again, I don't know what your application is, right? Or focal length. All of those play a role in face detect. But you're saying when, they're at a certain distance, my question is, what is your focal length, right? Because distance is relative to the focal length in terms of how many pixels are in the frame of the face, right? So I found that when the person's face is less than 10% of the frame, certainly when you get down to 3% of the frame, most camera systems have a problem trying to focus on the face. For example, right now in this live stream, my face is roughly 10 to 15% of the frame, and any camera should be able to handle this. But if you look at like this camera behind me, if my face was only as big as that camera in the frame, a lot of camera systems are going to struggle with that. And of course, lighting and if they're wearing glasses and a hat, all kinds of things can affect how face detect works. But yeah, so there's that. Okay, but I don't know if the OM1 Mark II is any better. I seriously doubt it. And just wondering if it's worth hanging on and waiting for a more substantial upgrade in AF detection. OM1 Mark III. Yeah, I would wait. Don't buy Mark II if you think if you're counting on the face detect to be better. I would not do it. And Marco says, you can shoot me emails at Marco. Oh, okay. Thank you, Marco. Marco shared his email address there. He's so helpful too. He's done, I know a few viewers that have reached out to him and gotten a lot of help. And he also has sold computers, at probably half what you could buy them for in the stores if you want him to build one for you. And good morning, Intrigue. So I'm going out to shoot the snow and icicles. Yes. And Marco says, we haven't been streaming as much lately. Oh, okay. But he has some great videos on computer building and stuff. Those are always fun to watch, at least because I used to do that. And Heather, good to see you. It says, I'm seriously considering purchasing a MacBook next year for editing. So many problems editing using my Microsoft. Yeah. For Heather uses DxO Photolab, and I know that I have not heard anyone have problems with their Mac. I have heard a lot of problems with Microsoft, Intel and NVIDIA. Now, NVIDIA just dropped a new driver last week, which I installed yesterday, but I haven't had a chance to try the AI and the specific areas that I'm still having problems with when I use DxO. I would say 99% of my editing is I get through just fine. But when I try to do some certain things in DxO, like subject select, and depending on the image, it can be a problem. I have to restart DxO. Thomas says, thanks for your external storage options. Oh, you're welcome. And Easy Rider says, Crucial going away soon the way it sounds. I think it was Heather sent me an email about Crucial is getting out of the consumer market. But, as of right now, you can still buy their stuff. I recommend the Mac go no less than M4 Pro chip if buying a new computer from Apple, and at least put 48 gig of memory. It cannot be updated later. Need to purchase buying a new Mac. Okay, appreciate the advice. I don't know anything about Mac or Apple products. And good morning, Clint. Good to see you. Oh, you're on the Rocky Mountains. Wow, lucky. It's beautiful out there. And does Do have any cataloging tools that are worth pursuing? I thankfully never became dependent on Adobe for this, but may dig into DxO if there's some usable components. Yeah, I've just pretty much managed my own content, or assets as it's commonly referred to. So I've never bothered to look at any kind of content management software, third party. So yeah, I can't recommend anything because I'm just not aware of any, not because there aren't good ones out there. And good morning, Plug Nichols, good to see you. And Seraphin, picked up an OM3 and testing it against my ZF. I really don't understand the complaint with the OM3 face detection. In some ways I prefer it over the ZF, and it does just good in lower light. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'll show you some pictures from an event I did, but when I used the camera for taking pictures of people, never any problems. Never. And human face detect works great as long as your subject looks like a bird. That's funny. But if you want to elaborate on that, if you're being serious, right? Please elaborate on that. But my experience has been positive with the face detect in my OM3 and my OM1 Mark II. Actually, since the EM1 Mark III, the face detect has been excellent. Now, Robin Wong's experience has been different with the OM1 Mark I. He saw a substantial downgrade in face detect, but that's not been my experience. But I thought I'd share that because he feels pretty strongly about it, and I don't feel particularly strong one way or the other. Okay, but you know me, I would say that's just my personality. I don't feel strongly about anything in particular, right? My philosophy is to each his own, right? If you want to do what you do, use what you use, it's fine by me. I'm not going to try and change your mind. Okay, and Adam says, I will throw out a different thought on waiting for an OM1 Mark III for face detect. Hate to promote gas. You're going to wait another 1.5 years for a better feature that may not be. Yes. I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Hate to promote gas. You are going to wait another 1.5 years for a better feature that may not be. So what are you suggesting? They buy a camera now and not wait for the OM Mark I Mark III? I think that's what I get from that statement. And Anthony says, waiting for the M5 Pro shipped to come out before purchasing a Mac Mini or MacBook Pro. I'm not in a big hurry for now. Just have to be careful how many photos I pre-develop at the time. Okay. And Bolton says, I have the OM3. Does the OM1 Mark II have any advantage in photographing fast-running horses? Yes. Now, I don't have an OM1 Mark II, but the significant advantage of the OM1 Mark II is the buffer, right? You can get 200 plus frames in a buffer before you have to start, before it starts to slow down because it's writing to the memory card. So, I don't know how you're shooting horses, if you're going to lean in heavy on the buffer, but that's, the buffer in the OM3 is only like 88 frames. It's significantly lower. And while that's adequate, I've definitely run into issues, right? When I'm mashing the shutter button and relying on the buffer to capture things. But yeah, that's the key advantage of the OM1 Mark II. And then battery life, of course. No, why did I say that? Not battery life, but the grip, where the battery goes in. The grip makes for much easier use, much better handling. So when you can handle a camera better, ultimately you're going to get better images because you can hold the camera properly, and it has more buttons and dials you can access, and the different functions for doing photography much easier. So the workflow is better on the OM1 Mark II than the OM3. So it's not just the technical capabilities, but the physical workflow of buttons and handling that you'll ultimately get better images, I think, for sports action, in your case, horses. Okay, and thank you so much, Seraphin, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate all the support all of you have given me this year. Thank you so much through the direct donations and super chats and participation here in the streams and being here with me and asking questions. All of that has been great this year, and I've really enjoyed my time with all of you this year, and I look forward to another super great 2026, even better. And Heather says, yes, it was me. I suspect there will be some good deals on Crucial next year. I bought a Crucial X10 Cyber Monday, and it's super 4 terabyte. Wow, 4 terabytes for 240. That's really good. And Angelo, good to see you from the Netherlands. And Plug Nichols says, as people aren't my main subject with my own system, it was just in jest, as I have very good success with. Oh, okay, good. So you're just kind of kidding around. All right, I get it. I didn't, because you never know. It's hard to get the context of what people are writing in the chat section sometimes, and I might make light of it when they're being serious, and I don't want to do that. I want to take everyone's questions and comments very seriously when I need to, right? But I don't want to like overthink it and take everybody so seriously that it becomes an issue, right? And Les Grout says, what brought you into photography and how did you start? Okay, well, long story short, my dogs that I had, that I loved dearly, one lived 17 years, the other one lived 15 years, but I got them together, passed away. And I didn't have any good pictures of them. And this was way back, I think in 2012, 2011, something like that. I didn't have any good pictures of my life with them because they were with me most of my adult life at that time, right? And dogs are my kids, right? For pet, a lot of people's pets are basically their kids, their family. So I kind of regretted that. So I went out and I started shopping for a new camera, a good camera. Let me rephrase that, a real camera. I was looking for a real camera, and because I was into photography in college, but that was film, right? And, now we're talking 20 years later from college. I didn't do any photography other than a couple of compact cameras here and there and doing some travel. When I went on vacation, I would take a few snaps. But so I got serious about photography again because when I got my new dog, I said I didn't want to make that mistake again. And I wanted my new dog, I wanted to record my adventures with my new dog. And that's actually how my channel started here on YouTube, Rob Trek, because Trek means travel, right? So I was going to record my adventures with my new dog on YouTube from me and my family. I wasn't really planning to do anything more. And hence the name of my channel, which, the name Rob Trek I've been using even long before I did YouTube. So when I created my YouTube channel, I just named it Rob Trek because I had already been using that. And so that's how I got started. I just want to take good pictures of my dogs, and I still do that today, right? Many of you know I take lots of pictures of Ellie, who's passed out down here. She likes to lay down by the space heater. So, and that's what I have the most pictures of are my dogs. I post, sometimes I go on a post spree of my dog, but if I go to my albums here and I type in Ellie, 227 photos here of Ellie. And that's what I do. And then I also have Riley. Riley was the dog that I had. He passed away too soon. He died early at, I think, only 8 years old. So I didn't get a lot of time with him. But we went everywhere together, camping and hiking and doing stuff. But yeah, so that's the long story short, I guess. Currently using first generation MacBook Air M1, okay? And on earlier question about sharpness versus maximum aperture and MFT, it's almost a fool's errand because the physics of the sensor, my favorite 0.95 is the Voigtlander 25mm due to contrast. Yep. So yeah, it's an uphill battle a lot of times because of the pixel pitch is so fine on Micro Four Thirds. When trying to compare, or comparison is not the right word, but it goes back to what I was saying. You can't shoot Micro Four Thirds the same way you shoot full frame. They're just different beasts. And lens choice, aperture choice, all of that comes into play as well. And Paul says another advantage of the OM1 is that it takes a battery grip. Yes. So again, handling, right? So the third part, or not third party, but you can get a external grip so you can hold the camera vertically and of course horizontally and get a shutter button. Does Robin have a bad copy or less than perfect copy of the lens he is using that is hindering his face tech? Would like to see you both go online and work through that. Robin's pretty much set, right? I don't want to question his I don't want to question his results or his experience. Nothing I say or do is going to change his mind on it, right? And I guarantee you, any setting or suggestion I could possibly make, he's tried, and he's still firm. He's still firm in his opinion of the face detect for the OM1. So And we're not shooting the same thing. And there was a time when he released a video about how his EM5 Mark III was shooting, had better autofocus than his OM1. And at that time, because that has a big can of worms, right? At the time, because the OM1 was released, I released a video putting that to the test. And long story short, he's right. The M5 Mark III did focus in low light better than the OM1. Okay? So you can watch my video on it if you want to see how I tested and the results that I got. That said, once you got to a certain light level, right? As I raised the light levels in the room, the OM1 easily outperformed the M5 Mark III. But as when you got below a certain threshold, the M5 Mark III was able to lock focus more often than the OM1, in fact, substantially. So there's a certain threshold where you kind of get to a tipping point where the OM1 is struggling. It's barely getting autofocus. And then once you get to a certain light level, bam, it starts locking in more often and more accurately than the M5 Mark III. And this was a very singular test. I was only taking pictures of one test chart and adjusting the light levels. It's not the same thing as real life experience of taking out in the field and doing event photography and actively using the face detect and autofocus. And his opinion and all his experience as a event photography, and not just experience, but experience using Micro Four Thirds in event photography. There's nothing I can say or do or recommend that he has not already tried. And there's probably a 100 things he could tell me to improve my photography in low light with any camera, right? With any Micro Four Thirds camera specifically. So yeah, I don't want to challenge him on it. When I did challenge him a little bit initially when he said the OM1 Mark I does not focus as well as the M5 Mark III in low light. So I went to confirm that, and I confirmed he was right. He was right. But okay, anyway. Clint, have you looked at the OM System 45F 1.2? Okay, I'm not sure what that was about. And Angelo says, Rob, regarding the face detect and face AF, Jimmy Chang also noticed regression between the OM1 and the EM1 Mark III. He mentioned many times in his videos. Yeah, he said that too. I don't, like I said, that's just not been my experience. But I don't shoot with any other system very much. And when I had the EM1 Mark III, I wasn't doing a lot of event photography. That event photography is more of a new thing for me when I got the OM1 Mark I. So I don't have the experience. Those guys do it all the time. They're still like hardworking photographers offline, right? With real photo jobs. I get the sporadic photo job now. I'm really disappointed I didn't get called again this year to do some events that I did last year from the same people. For whatever reason, they didn't call me. I don't know if they found somebody else or they're not having their party. So I just did some pro bono stuff this week. And there's a message for Clint there. And Adam says, oh, heck, I didn't even think your last name on the channel was a strange name. When was in radio briefly in STL, I had the stage name Adam West. My kids have no clue who that is. This group may. Yeah, Batman, right? I think. I don't know. Adam West, it doesn't, it rings a bell, but I can't put my finger on it exactly. And Angela says, you made a video confirming the hunting of the OM1 in low light. Yeah, so I just talked about that, but yeah, so you've seen it. And yes, I remember Adam West. Who is that? I can't think of anything. So, all right, looks like I've caught up on the chat. And oh, I'm sorry, I missed this one. Bolton, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. It helps me out so much. And the OM grip for the OM2 is 460. There is more budget-friendly version, not that I'm aware of. I bought mine on sale for 250 earlier this year in anticipation of doing more events this year. And nothing happened. The OM25 1.2 is my personal favorite. The Panasonic Leica 42.5 1.2 is overall a better portrait lens, but it's big chunk of glass to haul around. Yes. Yeah, they're going to be big and heavy. And Seraphin says, question, with the OM3, is there any way to make the autofocus use the entire focus points when it's not seeing faces? It stays in limited area when not seeing faces until I turn off face detect. You know, I use my OM3 in some kind of detect mode all the time. So off the top of my head, let me just check real quick. I'm going to disable. I need to put on a autofocus lens. Let's see. The wonderful 12 to 45 f4. Love this lens. And give it some power and a memory card. And then I'll share a couple of images after I look at this. So when not, the question was autofocus. When it's not seeing faces, it stays in a limited area until you turn off the face detect. Okay, so I'm going to turn face detect. I got to read this one more time. When the OM3, is there any way to make autofocus use the entire focus points when not seeing faces? It stays in a limited area when not seeing faces until I turn off face detect. So with face detect on, I don't have any problems. Let me show you my screen. I gotta adjust the brightness here. So here's the super control panel, right? CAF, face detect on, and I got all points selected. And all points selected, right? And if I, oops. And I can change it to whatever I want. So there's all points. So all points selected. So it's always going to select my face, right? Because my face is here. But if I point it over here, when there's no face, let me see if I can get closer. Get my face out. See, it's going to select probably the, you know, the closest thing. So yeah, I don't know, Seraphin, I'm not having the same issue. Let me know if that's different than what you're getting. Because in the menu, check this one menu place. Oh, I need my glasses. In the AF menu, I think. There's this online too. This is one of them, CAF setting. So AF menu page 2, and then make sure those are set to all. Okay. And then there's one other place here. Okay, on page 6, okay, AF menu page 6, the first line item there, AF target mode settings. Make sure you have all checked here, because if I turn that off, I'm not going to get all points. So make sure that's checked, and then you can create custom ones or select whatever else is in here. So those are the menus items I would check, and hopefully that solves your problem. Okay. And Angela says, Rob, Jimmy Cheng is a portrait and wedding photographer. Rob and his event, both are not shooting birds or wildlife. I think that is why others don't notice they have problems. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying, is these guys have real photo jobs outside of YouTube. You know, that's their primary, I think that's where they spend most of their time, right? Is doing actual photo jobs, and then YouTube is kind of a, you know, a side hustle for them. And fair point on Robin's experience and knowledge. I may go back and watch his findings. He is most often spot on for certain, yes. And, oh, come on. Adam West and Burt Ward. Okay. Those just sound so familiar. So Adam West was the, oh yeah, Batman. Yeah, I did remember that, right. I think Burt Ward was Robin. Yep, that sounds right. Only people above 50 know these actors. Yep. Holy cow, Rob. Adam West Batman. Yep. And I use my EM1X for events and the OM1 as the secondary for inside shots. Outside, they're used equally, and the OM1 much more for wildlife. That's probably what Robin Wong does with his EM1 Mark II and OM1. And curious, what's the macro light you have on that? So, this is a Fumito mini macro flash. It's $79. It's on my deal page, robtrek.com/deals on Amazon. But if you want to look it up, that's what you can do. So, all right, let's And Seraphin says, that's exactly my settings, but it's showing a black box. It stays within, and I can't remove it. A black box? I'm not familiar with a black box. Gosh, I just don't know. You know what, Seraphin, just email me a picture of what you're talking about, and then I'll see if I can figure it out, because I can't tell from the way you're describing it. Okay. All right, let's look at a couple of photos. I won't bore you too much with it, you know, like when you go to somebody's house and they open up their family album, photo albums. Maybe that people don't do that anymore. But it's like, oh my God. Bore you to tears. But I did want to talk about some lessons learned when I did the event photography. Okay, here's the worst shot ever of an eagle catching a fish. There is probably 300 pixels on this eagle, so it's really, and this is ISO 12,800. So when you have the eagle very small in the frame and you're at high ISO and low light, you're gonna get a crap picture like this. But it's a good action shot, you know. But that's the best I could do. It was probably, I don't know, what time was it? 1543. And that can't be right. But anyhow, that's the shot. If I were to crop in on just the eagle, roughly that, 800 by 600. So I got less than a megapixel, half a megapixel of data on this bird at ISO 12,800, and I processed that the best I could. Okay, and then let's see. Those I showed. Someone took a picture of me. Whoops. This was taken by Shri. Nice picture, Shri. I'm looking pretty dapper there, actually. But, you know, I have the OM3 with the IT20 flash on there. This bag, I think, Adam, you might be familiar with this bag because you bought one of these on my recommendation. The old, this one here. I still use this. This is, I was using it yesterday, actually. This is this bag here, my Lowepro. You can't get these anymore. Somehow you found one, though, a couple years back. But yeah, this is still a great bag. This is, I think, the very first photography bag I ever bought. 50 bucks, you know, more than 10 years ago. That was a lot of money for a freaking bag. But $5 a year if you want to spread it out over 10 years. And it's probably got another 10 years of life left into it, easy. It's been a great bag. Lowepro. If anybody wants one, if you can find one, this is what it's called. And it's pilling a little bit here, but it's been a great bag, very durable. This is gum. I was never able to completely clean that out, but I got gum on the bottom somehow. And just to look inside, simple front pocket, zipper, and some filters and flash and stuff in here. Okay. And I stuck my OM3 on top of that, so it fits the OM3 just great. Okay, and let's see. This is one of the first macro shots that I did with my new macro lens. This is the back of a penny. And if you look at the Lincoln Memorial stamp on the back of a penny, right in the center, there's a very, very slight indent of where Lincoln sits in the memorial. This is some kind of dust here, and some pits and oxidation of the copper. And this is focus stacked. Don't ask me how many images I stacked. There was a lot. And let's see. Here's some stones. This is, I don't know, 80 or 100 stacked images. These are not stones, I'm sorry. This is sand. Very, very fine sand, like dust. And focus stacked a bunch of images to get this. Not bad for a first try, right? Of working with this lens. I think I did pretty good. Here's another one. I don't know how Ethan stacks these on top. If you guys ever seen one-of-one images on Instagram, you know, this was the inspiration for all of this. In fact, he sent me this sand to try. Apparently sand is different. Like, not all sand is beautiful like this. But that might be the very first image I ever tried. And then let's see. This this is sandpaper. I think I have it right here. Yeah, this is sandpaper. So if you look at the sandpaper here, you know, I just kind of set it down on a table and took a picture of it. but this is 240 grit sandpaper. And it's really interesting. It has some very colorful quartz and things in it. And the white is all the glue holding the sand onto the paper. And let's see. Here's another eagle shot. It's okay. I have some better ones of this eagle. And there's another one, again, very, very far away in the frame. This one here, I think I have about the same number of pixels on it, maybe even less. But I have roughly, yeah, this is a 0.49 megapixels. So half a megapixel of data on this eagle. But the key difference is, you know, there's a ton more light. This image framed here is 800 by 600. I'm just there. You can't see it, but it's down here. Yeah, just a fraction of the whole frame. But I took 7,000 images. I haven't called them yet. These are from yesterday morning. I haven't gotten a chance because after yesterday morning, we went down to MGM to take pictures of the fireworks. And these, we got kicked out. This is a whole nother story. We got kicked out of MGM for taking pictures of the fireworks because the fireworks are not part of the MGM entertainment. And they didn't want us there taking pictures of entertainment provided by the National Harbor. I'm like, it's outside. I think it'll be okay. And after we take photos, the fireworks last for 5 minutes. After the 5 minutes of fireworks, we were going to go in and patronize the food court and buy food and have dinner and hang out there. So they're gonna lose business by kicking people out that go there to look at the fireworks. I'm just saying, MGM, you are going to lose business by kicking people out and not letting them look. I mean, you built this beautiful balcony overlooking the Potomac River and the National Harbor for people to enjoy the view, like the sunset in this case. And you close it off to the public because you don't want people watching entertainment provided by a different source, right? Because MGM, they have their own, shows and casinos and hotel. And National Harbor has its own shows, no casino, but its own shows and entertainment, right? And they're right next to each other. And they're like, yeah, we don't want you looking at the National Harbor if you're going to come to MGM. At least that's the explanation they gave me. And the security guard pulled up, he said, you guys aren't allowed to take pictures of the fireworks from MGM. I'm like, oh, well, thank God it's not an emergency. But yeah, okay, we'll leave. Just seriously, MGM, what are you thinking? I mean, we're going to go there, take pictures for 5 minutes, then go into the casino, or not the casino, but the food court and eat. And you're going to lose, you've definitely lost my business in that respect. I'm not going to eat at your food court anymore. It's overpriced, number one, anyway. But number two, that's just bad business, in my opinion. Okay, and these are some of my friends I took pictures with. I don't think they want me to share those. But I think that's enough photos. I did have one more somewhere. I had one nice one at Conowingo. I don't know why it's not here. Oh, I put it in the wrong folder. Okay, it's in this folder. So this is the snow that I took this morning. I don't know how Ethan gets a single piece of snowflake in his shot, but I'm gonna try. But there's another shot at Conowingo. This is the OM3 and 12 to 45 at 12 millimeters probably. I gotta oh, I gotta turn the exit data back on. When I deliver to clients, I take the exit data off, and I forgot to turn it back on. This is a nice shot of the dam at Conowingo. We get there pretty early, so I like to get a shot with the lights on and everything at the dam. And I think it just makes an interesting shot. And I tried to do something a little different. I got really low down to the ground this time. But I have my other standard shots and panos. I have like I think I have a 9 or 10 shot pano ready to go. Not ready, but that I need to process. It's a panorama that goes much wider and taller and and I shot it at 50 millimeters instead of, in this case, I'm at a 12 millimeter single shot. But I took a 50 millimeter lens and did a multi-row pano that I'm going to try and put together. Hopefully that'll come together nicely. Let's see if the snow looks any good. These are stacked. I haven't stacked them yet. And I have about 100 images to stack. This is just a small sample. So we'll see. It looks like it's melting, like it's not quite freezing yet. But you know, I was using flash, so I took a black frame and then I took a test frame for exposure, and this looked about right. And then I started stacking. Now, I'll do a video on how I do some of this stuff. I may have to consult with Ethan a little bit about my technique. Once I get a little more practice, like I said, I've only been doing this a couple of days. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But let me find one more quick video. I have to go to the folder. This one's a bit overexposed, but I'm stacking here. This is basically a time lapse of the stacking. So I'll play that one more time. Yep, I think that's it. Okay. So that's, oh, I didn't talk about the event photography. I'll talk about that later. Let me get back to the chat section. Okay, what are your thoughts on the Nikon Z5 Mark II? It's a nice camera. You know, I don't have any desire to buy one, but yeah, I've never handled one or used one, so I don't have too many thoughts about it that I can share, other than the specs look nice, 24 megapixel, right? And supposedly good autofocus. Yeah, sorry, I don't have a lot of opinion about it. I mean, Nikon's always been a great camera system, and I don't think anyone will be disappointed if they buy Nikon Z5 II, and they have a great lens lineup. But I don't know what advantage it would give me over my OM3 at this point for the photography that I do, right? So yeah, it's a nice little camera, but yeah, I don't have any thoughts about it, really. Same goes for like the new Canon R6 Mark III, because I have a Canon R8, and I can see where the R6 Mark III would solve some issues that I have with my R8, but I don't really want to invest in a R6 Mark III if just to fix a couple of minor problems, not minor, but to fix a couple of problems I was having it, because I have my OM3, which will take care of everything. Sarah says, appreciate that. Don't see your email in the description. Oh, it's just rob@robtrek.com. I'll just type it in there. So you can reach me there. Let's see. And, oh, that's a message for Wayne. And Rob, on the EM1 Mark III, is there any way to get auto ISO to go above 6400? No. Yeah, unfortunately, there isn't. That low probe is great little bag. Found it new at tags on eBay. Oh, nice. Yeah, I thought that was you that bought it from a couple years back. Still use mine. And I used, what software did you use to stack? Helicon Focus. So I tried the other one. Someone recommended Xerin, I think it's called, or Xerin. And I ended up getting, because they were both having holiday sale, 20% off. And ultimately, Xerin Stacker is a little bit cheaper. But I kind of liked what Helicon Focus did. Let me see if I can give you an example. And Photoshop did a terrible job. But this was the Xerin, I think the Xerin Stacker. And I was struggling a bit to get, now I know there's sliders and things to make adjustments to fix some of the problems that I'm seeing in this image. But I didn't have to do or work quite as hard in Helicon Focus to get the image that I wanted. So this is with Helicon Focus, and this is what I got with Xerin Stacker. So I kind of like the results I got from Helicon Focus a little better in this case. They're both equally very good stacking software, so try them both out and see which one you like better. But ultimately, I lean towards Helicon Focus. Yeah, and I was experimenting back and forth. So I ended up with this. Let's see. And then I have the 42.5 coming eBay purchase. I'm going to compare them. Okay. Let us know next week. And it looks like garnet's in the sandpaper. Yes, that sounds right. I don't know anything about sand, but I am seeing the word garnet a lot. And Adam says, love that gray sling bag you recommended on Amazon for almost free. Yeah, it was like $3 or something, right? I haven't been using that one quite as much, but for $3, I don't have to use it much, right? To get my money's worth. I can use it one time and I got my money's worth. $3. And loved it until I noticed it was dragging my camera across the zipper opening. Used with smaller cam. Funny what you noticed post dollars. Yeah, it's true. I didn't notice anything with the zipper though. But I'll keep that in mind. My little gray fanny pack thing. And sandpaper shot reminds me of an ND filter shot of waterfalls. Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. And liking those creative macros, especially the sandpaper, would have thought it was leaves sticking out of snow. Yeah. And are you using a different macro lens? Yeah, I showed it earlier in the stream, the 4.5x. Let me see if I can give you oh, I have it here now. It's a closer shot. Now, from here to here is empty. There's nothing here. Okay? The lens is all up here in the front. So basically, these are extension tubes. You know, from here to here. This is an extension tube, and then a little tiny lens in the front. and then there's an aperture ring. There's no focusing to speak of. You can dial here between 4x and 4.5x. So that could be focus, but you can't focus stack with this. You need a rail. You can't focus stack using this, right? Like that. Your results are going to be terrible. So you have to use a focusing rail to. So if you buy this lens, you have to buy a focusing rail with it. You're expecting 7,000. Oh, I got 7,000 images. Yeah, no question. I just don't post 7,000 images of her. It'd be nice to see all new OM2R or an OM1R high resolution camera for the system, but I don't think they'll bring out two flagship bodies for two different purposes. Yeah, I seriously doubt it. I mean, they just use the high-res shot mode. That's their, that's their solution to high resolution. Not using a high resolution sensor, but just using computational. And the Gray Vanzini, good morning. Someone needs to do a video on this MGM garbage. No, I've said my piece. They're idiots though for doing it. I mean, they just, last week 2 people got shot in the MGM casino in the food court. Okay? I mean, I kind of live in a rough area to begin with, right? It's just, so I'm not surprised by it. And like a lady down the street from me was murdered last week also in her house. And I do hear gunshots time to time where I live. Not as much as I used to. It seemed to have tempered down a bit. But, I just don't live in a good area. It's kind of high crime. I think they got more important things to worry about than people coming there patronizing their food court like we do. Because every time we go there to shoot fireworks, we go back to the food court and we eat. And we have a few drinks, a few laughs, and they're no longer going to get that business because we're going back again this weekend, but we're going to go across the bridge and take pictures from the public park, right? The state national park. And then we're going to go eat somewhere in Virginia. So, it's their loss, in my opinion. Okay, how many of you out there want to see 2 flagships from OM Systems, one with 24 and one with 30 or 40? It's to be interesting if they came out with like a 40 megapixel, because the 40 is out there. Or they could use the sensor that's in the OM1 right now. It's actually an 80 megapixel, sensor. There's 4 pixels per pixel that they use. Quad Bayer or something, whatever they call it. But they'd have to rewrite and redo the wiring and everything. But they wouldn't have to make an entirely new sensor. All they'd have to do is rewire the one they have, give it some new processing power, and they'd have an 80 megapixel sensor in an OM1, potentially. And does anyone else want to see an R version? I don't know. The real feel is 16 degrees. Yep. That's cold. It's cold out. I don't know what the temperature is. It's 29 degrees right now. So a little below 0 Celsius. And I have the Z5 II. Hard to beat at 1600. Yep. Eric, I talked to, I didn't know he watches my live streams, and he probably doesn't realize I watch a lot of his videos. But, did I forget his name again? My memory is so bad. One of these days, I'm just going to be totally out and drooling, because my brain is turned to mush. I don't know why I can't remember his name. I'm so bad. I am running on fumes this week, but what the heck? I can't remember this name. Let me look. It's going to be in my history because I just watched it. Eric Jennings. Oh, he's put out another video. This was an interesting take. Full frame is the new budget option. So the oh, you're not seeing this. Hold on. So full frame is the new budget option. And he's right. There's a lot of full frame cameras that cost less than APS-C and Micro Four Thirds at this point, right? The Z5 II, the R8 come to mind. They cost less than, the flagships from OM Systems and Panasonic. But anyway, you can get a Z5 Mark I, the original Z5, for like $500 now, right? So I don't know. Watch that video. It was an interesting video. I haven't watched this one yet. Fuji versus Nikon color sign. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of interesting. And I lost my chat window. Any options for magnetic mount for OM3 and a small lens? Hate carrying a tripod just for a few shots at night. Going to Japan, want to take some night shots of trains. I'm not aware of any magnetic mount tripods. I'm sorry. Or using a magnetic mount. I would suspect a magnet that would be strong enough to hold a camera would interfere with the IBIS, right? The image stabilization on the sensor. So probably there isn't any options. I'm not aware of any. And Helicon is what Chris McGinnis uses. His macro photography is amazing. Yep, I've met Chris a couple times. Well, at least once. It feels like twice because I saw him a couple times in one day at separate times. But yeah, he's a good guy. And GG Wildlife says, Helicon focus is awesome. I prefer software for focus stacking. Okay. And Anthony said, if OM Systems were to bring out a high-resolution version of the flagship, it would not need to be fully stacked sensor like the main flagship. It's a tough call. Like I said, the current sensor is an 80 megapixel sensor. It's just divided 4x4 to give you 20. And so if the OM1 cameras seem to have lingering focus difficulties, what is the consensus on the OM3? I don't recall nearly as much chatter about it having problems. It's no better than the OM1 Mark II. I mean, it's the same autofocusing system. So, well, anyway, my thoughts on it. I think the autofocus is fine. And Clint says, that's the OM camera I'm most interested in due to updated computational capability. Still very happy with my EM1 Mark III. Yeah, I wouldn't worry, Clint. The low light autofocusing is not as good as the M1 Mark III. But like I said, there's that threshold, right? Is what I found. And Sarah says, I sent a message to your Instagram. I don't know why, but the email address wouldn't send. Okay, I'll check the Instagram. That's just as good as option as any. All right, so I'm kind of caught up there. Let me look at, let me talk about the event photography. So let me see if I can find the photos. And I'll talk about how I messed up and how I fixed it. Where is it? I think this is it. I don't have the EXIF data on these files. So you'll just have to trust me. Okay, so, all right. So, like I said, it was just a dance kind of performance at a senior center. And the ladies are all seniors and, that are dancing. And I set up 2 flashes. You can see a reflection of one right here in this big screen TV. What I did was I pulled the blinds down and I pointed it at the wall to get a big light source to make it as soft as possible. And then the other flash I put in the other corner and pointed up to the corner of the wall to bounce the light off the wall and get another big light source, right? I tried putting umbrella on and that didn't really make much difference, so I pointed it back at the wall. The umbrellas are great for doing portraits and things, but when I'm doing an event, nothing beats pointing the flash at a big wall, right? To make the light source as big as possible. So yeah, this shot I've edited a little bit to balance the lighting out. The lighting was very uneven because because I didn't have one light was much closer here on the left side. It was very, very bright over here on the left side, and then the right side was a little bit dim. And so I had to balance the lighting out in post-processing. I just use a graduated filter and darken the left side down. But I had to work too hard to correct this image. I don't like to post-process. I like to have as minimal post-processing as possible because then the image is more natural looking, right? When you have to start post-processing and fix problems, then no matter how hard you try, the picture is never going to be quite right. And this picture is not quite right. But this is what happened, right? Is the left side was too bright, and it looks like this image was taken using flash, not because of this reflection, but because the lighting's still a little bit harsh. There's some shadows here. It just, it just looks very flashy, and that's not the look that I was going for. Here's another example. Very, very flashy. And a lot of post-processing work. I mean, not a lot. I only spent a few minutes on it. But enough that it was, is a pain. And it still doesn't look right. It looks very flashy. There's some harsh shadows here and there. And, and the lighting is just kind of a little bit harsh. Let me go back to the previous. Now look at the window here. You can tell by the outside, it was a bright sunny day. But you can tell I used too much flash, basically. And I because I didn't want the windows to be overexposed and blown out. So that's one of the reasons, I used a higher shutter speed, like at 1/250th of a second or somewhere thereabouts. And I used, I was probably shooting at f8. Like I said, I wish the EXIF data was still here, but ultimately the exposure is very flashy. Like this one, very flashy. This one, I started to make some corrections. Now the lighting looks a little bit more natural. And I didn't have to post, like this wall is not super bright and overexposed. And the lighting is a little more even, and on the floor here you can see there's less shadows. The shadows aren't quite as harsh. The shadows aren't quite as harsh on the subjects. And if you look at the window here, now it's much brighter. It's not overexposed, but it's brighter. So this is a little better, right? So now I'm blending flash with ambient light to get a much more natural look. Whereas these previous images, most of the lighting here is from the flash, and that's why it looks flashy. The lighting here is a better mix of ambient and flash. Here again, nice mix of ambient light and flash. You know, I don't have harsh shadows. I don't have, you know, I don't have uneven lighting, and everything looks pretty good here. Let me see, what should I mention is that the problem when you start mixing ambient light and flash, and I need to fix this picture. Well, it's too late. I already delivered it. But this shows another problem I have when you start mixing ambient light and flash, is the white balance here is very warm. This is the flash. Look in this corner how blue this is. It's very, very blue. Because the white balance coming out of the windows is very cool. So, yeah, I didn't fix that. I can't believe I missed this. But there's another image here. Same problem. Very cool lighting over here. And the lighting over here is much warmer. How come these are not corrected? I thought maybe these are not the final images. Yeah, there's some issues here. But this is another good example, right? The lighting here is very cool. The lighting here is very warm. So that's what I was trying to fix was, you know, the biggest problem, the white balance is part of it, but the bigger problem was just the very flashy look that I was getting initially. And that's because I was using too much, I was relying too much on the flash to provide the lighting and not mixing the ambient light and the flash. And I did that initially because I knew the white balance was going to be mixed. So, you know, overall, I'm not happy with the images. The client was fine, you know, and they should be because I did it for free. But, you know, it was a good reminder of, you know, if you're not out there practicing all the time, you know, you're going to make mistakes like this, right? When you go out on a real job. So part of the reason of doing the pro bono was, you know, I need to get out and practice again anyway. So let me see this one. This image is pretty well balanced. I did balance the cooler light coming in from the right with the warmer light here on the left side. Yeah, these are corrected. I don't know why the other ones aren't corrected as well. But you wouldn't know I was using flash in these pictures, right? But anyway, just a little lesson learned. Hopefully you'll learn from my mistakes there. But when you're doing event photography and there's a really strong lighting coming in from the windows, you know, I didn't want to close the blinds. I did close some in the back, but I didn't want to close them all because then I would have to rely too much on the flash. So I wanted a blend of natural light and flash photography. And I didn't do that on the first half. The first half of the shots, they were mostly flash only. But blending them later, I think the images came out a little nicer. Okay, and the Gray Vanzini says, quite happy with my OM5 and OM5 Mark II. Great, simple slideshows. Yep. And Roger says, I was using the PL7 with the latest update, and when I exported the photo, the page was doing a little bit of flashing while I was exporting. I'm not sure why it was doing that. PL7 with the latest update. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when you get flashing, that could be due to the cable, if you're doing it by cable, or some of the, electronics, they wear out. Things, solid state circuits don't last forever. So you might have one of the parts in the camera failing. That's not affecting the image taking capability of the camera at this point, but it is affecting other functions of the camera like exporting. So, because the PL7 is a pretty old camera at this point, it's like 10 years plus, and things just get old, right? Maybe there's a little bit of corrosion on some contacts. Could be anything causing a fluctuation in the, in the screen to make it flicker. And OM3 is the ultimate do-it-all cam. Great job, Rob. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was using OM3 at the event, just if I didn't mention that earlier. And Wildlife says, I think the light on these dance images is really good. It's okay. It's okay. I wasn't happy with it, especially because I had to do work to fix the lighting when it was too bright on one side. But I couldn't help it. I needed enough light on the subjects, which caused way too much light to be on the walls. So I had to correct for that. But then once I balanced the ambient light and the flash properly, and I did that by raising the ISO, basically. I didn't want to touch my shutter speed, because I was pretty much limited with the shutter. But I think I lowered the shutter speed and I raised the ISO to 800 to blend, because I think initially I was shooting at like 1/250th of a second, so I lowered it down to like 1/100th of a second. No, I didn't do that, because if you lower your shutter speed down to 1/100th of a second and people are moving around, you're going to get motion blur. So I had to make sure my shutter speed stayed at 1/250th of a second. So I ended up raising the ISO to 800 with the flash to make sure I could freeze the action, right? Minimize motion blur and still get a good mix of ambient and flash. But then I knew in post-processing, I'm going to have to fix the white balance to match better. Fortunately, nobody was wearing blue, so all I had to do is basically desaturate the blue from the images to balance the white, or white balance. But if they were wearing blue costumes, desaturating the blues wouldn't be a simple solution, right? I would have to then go in and start masking the blue areas around the dancers. And then that would cause a problem with, a lot of times people's faces have a little bit of a blue tint on them. It can be a real headache. When you have a mixed white balance, it can be a real pain in the butt, in post-processing to make the images look natural. Or you just let it be, right? You just let the white balance be mixed. But fortunately, I was able to mitigate the white balance quite a bit. Let me see if I can show you one example of how I edit it. I need to find one person was wearing blue. So I want to use that as an example. See if I can find it. All right. So this is an image I did not deliver to the client, because you can't really see, not everybody's smiling. that kind of thing, right? I was kind of picky. So this, let me reset this, make sure this is unedited. Yeah, it's basically unedited, right? So optical corrections. But you can see how blue the light is here coming in, but she's also wearing a blue dress. Typically how I fix the white balance is, and this one the flash didn't fire either. I think that's also why I didn't use this, because the lighting over here is way, way dark. I think in this one it didn't fire either. Anyway, oh yeah, look, I'm at ISO 2000 here. But just to give you an idea, this is how I fix the white balance. Is I just go in here and I select this bluish area up here, and then I just desaturate it, right? But I just have to be careful because this person is wearing blue. So if I go back, you see how blue her dress is? And I desaturate it. Now her dress is desaturated, but not too much. But if I didn't want to, if I wanted that blue dress to stay blue, I would have to do a gradient, right? Like this. And select this area up here. And then go down here and desaturate the blue. So now I've desaturated the blue out of here, but not her dress. But now there's blue here on the floor. So you see what I mean? It's like these things can turn into a pain in the ass in a hurry. But let me show you. That's before. Just look at the blue areas over here, and that's after. Now the white balance is a little bit more natural. And then I would have to come over here and just raise the exposure so it's more balanced. And I'm done, more or less. But no amount of editing really can take away when an image looks flashy and you got harsh shadows. You know, I can lower the contrast and do some other things to try to make it better. But you know, there's nothing like trying to get it right in camera and doing it right to begin with. Okay, good morning, Peter. Good to see you. And Wayne says, any experience with MyOps trigger? No, I have no idea what that is. And Mark Lens says, or Mark Wolf says, lens suggestions for product photography with an EM5 Mark II. Used to have the 60 2.8, but sold it due to me being so far from the products. Using the 25 1.7, but it doesn't focus close enough. The 12 to 40 f2.8 or the 12 to 45 f4, those focus very, very close. They have a minimum focusing distance like this. They're great for product photography. And being pro lenses, you can do focus stacking in camera if you want, but any of the lenses will do focus bracketing. That's what I would do. 12 to 40 or 12 to 45, F4 Pro or f2.8 Pro. And I don't think different white balance in different parts of an image is an issue at all. You have warmer reddish purple and cool blue behind you right now. It's a creative choice, not yeah. Like I said, it's subjective, right? Creatively speaking, I don't like mixed white balance in a room if I can help it. I'm mixing it here as a creative choice, right? I got my YouTube light in the back, and I only use that when I do YouTube. Or when I do streaming. Rob, it was for exporting the raw image from PL7 to finish. Maybe the video card couldn't. Oh, when you have the card in the computer. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. Maybe the video card couldn't handle the conversion. I don't know. It could still be issues though with contacts and things in the computer. The channel Photography Explained has an excellent video on why cameras are so expensive. Good explanation of initial costs. Okay. And there are cheaper full frame, but they do not have the same build quality and weather sealing of Micro Four Thirds flagship. A full frame flagship is double or more of the price. Yeah. Yeah, like the A1 is $5,000 or $6,000, right? And that's capable of, 50 frames per second, all the stuff that we're kind of used to as wildlife photographers. But it's double the price. If you get a Z5 Mark II, what's the frame rate on that? 10? I don't know what it is. I don't want to, but a Z5 Mark II doesn't have a lot of the capabilities, say, the flagship Micro Four Thirds do. It just depends on what you're looking for. And the Gray Vanzini, I'm impressed how high an ISO can use without worrying about too much noise. I took some 12,000 ISO shot with flash a couple of weeks ago and they're okay. At times a little far away for flash to work. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if you got decent lighting, whether by flash or ambient, you can use high ISO. But like that eagle shot that I showed earlier in the stream, the lighting was very low. And shooting in low light with 12,800 ISO, that's a little rough. And we need to compare flagship camera with flagship. Yep, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's apples and oranges when you take an OM1 Mark II versus a Nikon Z5 Mark II. It's apples and oranges. Even though the Z5 Mark II is a similar or lower price point than the OM1 Mark II, they're not the same camera by any means. One is certainly much more capable than the other in different situations. In low light situations, dynamic range, Z5. In sports action wildlife, frames per second, buffering, OM1 Mark II. I'm cherry picking, okay? So it depends on what you prioritize. And, low light capability could be a big deal, but I'm not shooting in caves, okay, or in low light all the time. So I don't know, but I do like huge pixels sometimes, like my Nikon DF 16 megapixel full frame camera. I think the images and the colors I get out of that are gorgeous. Just beautiful. And pair that with certain vintage Nikon glass, and I just get subjectively very beautiful images out of it. If Nikon were to bring a true professional replacement for the D500 with the same build quality or better, Z90 would be around the same price as the current OM1 Mark II, or maybe slightly more. A Z90. Because right now they have the Z50 Mark II, which a lot of people like for wildlife, right? Because of the extra reach, because of the cropping. So I think that'll do 10 or 15 frames per second, but that ain't going to cut it really. It'll be fine for some people, but for me, I want 50 frames per second if I can get it. Roger says, video card on desktop, nothing to do with camera. Yep. Yeah, there's just too many variables for me to diagnose why a screen might be flickering when you're importing photos. Just way too many variables there. And I'm going to scroll and make sure I didn't miss anything. I think I got everything. Okay. Okay. How are we doing on time? I lose track of time. We're right at 2 hours, so maybe we'll call it here. So everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. hopefully you enjoyed the stream. I certainly enjoyed having you all here with me today. I want to wish you guys a very happy holiday um, this week, and um, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy week, happy holidays. Thank you so much for being with me this year. I should be back on again next week, but it's it's that time of year where things are really busy, so I may not be able to go live next week as much. Um, so if I don't see you again, Happy New Year. And you guys have been great. I really appreciate all the support, and I hope to see everyone again soon.